to be joined right now by Dr. Cheryl MacDonald from the You Can Play 5K, the race coordinator among the many titles for Dr. Cheryl MacDonald. So first off, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we're going to talk You Can Play 5K because it's coming up quicker than we think, August 20th.
Absolutely.
It's going to be in there for with this part of Moncton's Pride Week. You Can Play and Fierté Moncton Pride are kind of joined up with this. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. So the You Can Play 5K is a 5-kilometer walk and run that's happening at Riverfront Park in Moncton. It's the first event of its kind. So the You Can Play project, as an anti-homophobia and sport organization, has sort of 3 mandates. So we do education, we do fundraising, and we do public awareness. And so part of my job is to do fundraising, and I decided to come back to Moncton to do the very first You Can Play 5K. We're hoping that if it goes well in Moncton that it'll take off and we can do it in cities all over North America. So proceeds from race registration are going to go 80% to You Can Play and 20% back into Fierté Pride Moncton.
All right, that's sweet. So this is kind of like a pilot project.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. So Moncton, the pioneer of this 5K race for You Can Play. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So for those of us who are watching here and may not necessarily heard of You Can Play, maybe we can give a little bit more of an introduction to that organization. What is You Can Play?
Of course. So the You Can Play project developed originally sort of in the hockey community. So the current president of hockey operations for the Calgary Flames is Brian Burke. And Brian Burke had an openly gay son who played hockey. And unfortunately, his son died in a car accident. And so as a way to sort of preserve his legacy and honor how difficult it can be to be an openly gay hockey player, Brian and his other son, Patrick, started this organization along with some of their colleagues that basically said, if you can play, you can play. And so it has expanded to all sports, and it's inclusive of the whole LGBTQ+ community. And it started in 2012, and we've grown quite a bit. So we partner with the NHL, the NFL, I think the NBA, the CWHL, the NWHL. We're working on the CHL, and most recently, I think the way that people have heard about the You Can Play project is in the NHL. In February, during Hockey is for Everyone month, we had You Can Play nights where teams would bring us in. We'd sell Pride tape, the rainbow-colored hockey tape. The NHL also had sort of the rainbow-colored T-shirts with all of the different teams' logos. And yeah, they were just really fun sort of awareness-raising nights in the NHL.
So now, also a little bit more background on yourself. You're from Moncton originally, from Riverview, actually. Moncton, whichever. Kevin's from Riverview, so we'll go that way. And but you live in Edmonton now, taking your postdoctorate, and you have your doctorate now.
Yes.
And so you kind of, as the co-chair of the Western Canadian side of You Can Play, this is very close to you for sure, and then you can bring it back here, which must be like a homecoming for you.
Exactly, it is. When I decided to do this, part of it was because I didn't really have contacts in Edmonton yet, and certainly as I've gone from being an ambassador for You Can Play to co-chair of the Western Board, I've made lots of contacts, but it was really special to have it in my hometown because it's sort of become my baby, and I get to watch it grow and hopefully help other people develop the same event, so it's really special for me.
All right, so is this kind of the thing where you see doing, like for yourself doing one of these and then kind of handing it off to the local community, or do you see yourself doing, I know the objective is to do more than one, but do you see yourself in this position continuing?
Yes and no. I think my job is actually to be a bit more of an advisor and to help ambassadors organize their own events. And in that sense, if I can hand it off and sort of be a consultant, that would be fun. But if things go in such a direction that I can come back and do this every year, or do it in Edmonton, or even travel around to sort of start them off, I'm game for anything.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more of the organization of it, because it is a couple of months out, but certainly you have a grasp of exactly how much work to put in to set this kind of thing. So what do your days look like right now? How busy has it been to kind of set this thing from the ground running?
Right. To be honest, it hasn't been all that busy. Right now, what takes up my time is promotional work and looking for sponsors, looking for volunteers, organizing things like finding race T-shirts and medals, bananas, water, chocolate milk, those types of things. So it's not taking up a whole lot of my time, but at the same time, being in Moncton is kind of like vacation for me too. So, so I'm working on that slowly and talking to people and getting things going. But my days will probably get busier as it gets closer, and I need to actually get things together and do setup and work on race kits and things like that and actually bring the whole thing together.
Actually put it all into a nice, neat little package. And if you want to be part of that package, you can right now. Registration's going on until July 21st at runningroom.ca, and you can also check out the Facebook page as well. So in terms of numbers, have you seen the outreach that you've been expecting, or is it kind of blown you away, or is there, what have you seen so far in terms of the community kind of embracing this thing?
Right. Not many people have registered yet, but that's common. So you see in the running community that...
A lot of last minute.
Well, yeah, and the price of registration goes up as you get closer to race day. And so therefore, I think I'll probably see a lot more registrations later, and people will be annoyed that the price has gone up. But at the same time, I capped the event off at 200 people to start. I thought that was a safe number, and if I get close to that, it'd be wonderful. Right now, people are still just learning about it. They're still learning about what the You Can Play project is, let alone what this event is and how it fits into Pride Week. So a lot of people are telling me that they've heard of it and they're interested in it, and I think that's exactly where I should be right now with this.
So, and it seems like a natural connection to have the You Can Play along with part of Pride Week and part of Fierté Moncton Pride. So how was it to coordinate it, taking this big national, international organization like You Can Play to Fierté Moncton Pride, or how did the organization, the relationship work there?
That was just me thinking that it made sense to have the event during Pride Week, so I contacted River of Pride, Rivière de Fierté, and said, I know you have some sports activities going on. This is what I do for a job or as a volunteer, and would it make sense, and are you interested in having me host this event during your week? And they said absolutely. It only made sense to host it as part of their the rest of their lineup, especially where they had other sports going on too. So we hit it off really well right from the get-go, and I think that they're putting on a really solid week, and I'm happy to also be helping them out and put money back into their community. I think that it's a really great partnership.
Yeah, that 80-20 relationship, it really feeds back into the local community. From a bird's eye view, from the You Can Play part, how, in looking at the Fierté Moncton Pride community, how do you think it's set up here? What do you think about the setup for that group, as kind of an outsider's perspective?
I think it's excellent. I think that where I'm used to being in big cities, so when I left here, I went to Halifax and then to Montreal and to Edmonton, and so Pride in those cities can be a sort of a bigger deal than in Moncton. But at the same time, I think that they're really well set up. And in fact, Randy Boissonneau, the special advisor to the Prime Minister on LGBTQ+ issues, was in Moncton a couple weeks ago, and I was able to meet with him, and we were able to bring people together from CETA Moncton AIDS, from the United Church, from Fierté Pride Moncton, people like myself, people working for government, to all have this discussion of what's important in our community. And I think that the fact that we have a site or a forum to talk about those things and how to improve the well-being of the queer community in Moncton is amazing, because even 10 years ago, it's not something that we really talked about. And so I think that we're seeing a lot of progress despite it being a sort of smaller community.
Yeah, and to talk progress with the help of You Can Play 5K and part of Pride Week, where do you see this progress going in the next 5 or 10 years? Do you think there will be a spot where it will be completely full acceptance, no prejudice whatsoever? Do you think it's going to be ironed over a little bit? That's a very loaded question, but do you think it's, do you see a lot of progress on that avenue from be it communities, teams, companies, whichever?
I think sport is going to lag behind the rest of society in that respect. I find that when it comes to sports, especially male team sports, they're a bit later catching on to new social ideas. But at the same,
very tribal.
Yeah, a little bit. And but I think that overall we are going to see a lot of progress. Do I think that that kind of prejudice is going to go away entirely? No. I mean, we're still dealing with deeply rooted racism that has been around forever. And I unfortunately think that homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia is something that will probably always be around in some form to some extent. But at the same time, I think that we're really quickly gaining ground in the fight for equality. And so I'm trying to look at that side of things instead of, probably knowing that we'll never all accept one another.
No, we certainly hope that we will, certainly at some point. Like I said, it was a very loaded question. But You Can Play 5K coming up in August. So what's next for people who want to register, for people who want to get more information? Where can they find it?
They can find it on the Facebook group, so if you look up You Can Play 5K Moncton, therunningroom.com, like you said, that's where you can register. And in both those places you can find my contact information. So I'm looking for sponsors, for volunteers, participants. If anyone has any questions, they can get in contact with me directly, and we can go from there.
All right, so be sure to check it out. That is the You Can Play 5K. Dr. Cheryl MacDonald, the race coordinator, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
We've got that coming up August 20th. You can register now until July 21st at runningroom.ca, or check out the Facebook page. You can see the contact info for her as well.